podcast I was on with you, I have heard through the grapevine, it's the most downloaded and watched podcast you've ever had. Is that true?
I don't know if I'd say that, but I think it's doing pretty.
Okay, well, maybe we'll go through the math a little later on.
He's a political podcaster. He writes a column about Canadian politics, and he's 14 years old. Joining us now, Wyatt Sharpe, host of the Wyatt Sharpe podcast, to talk about his latest interviews and his thoughts on our current political state. Good morning. I'm going to say, sir, and welcome to the studio.
Thank you, yeah.
Can we get a warm round of applause for Wyatt, please? Because you've been contributing to this show for almost 4 years now. And we saw that one when Sid thought that he had the most views on your podcast ever, which was a complete lie.
Well, it did pretty well.
It did okay?
Yeah.
We don't need to blow up his ego anymore. It's good. You can be very honest with us. When you see and kind of look back at videos like that from a few years ago to where you're at now, what do you think about?
Well, when I first started, I was talking with, a lot of different people, kind of more, local to Ontario politics and Canadian politics. And what I've found was now that I've been able to interview people in, the Canadian political scene, I've been able to grow that to talk with people on the U.S. side as well. So with the 2024 presidential election, I've talked with a couple candidates who are running for president and just, trying to help my show benefit as many people as possible.
Who have you talked to so far? Is this what we're seeing Representative Rokana?
Right, correct, yes. So I talked with, I was in Washington recently, so I talked to Rokana on Capitol Hill and Nancy Mace. They're working together in a lot of bipartisan ways on childcare and stuff. They actually were talking about how Canada has, a childcare strategy implemented by the federal government and how they want to kind of duplicate that, so that was interesting.
Oh, wow.
And so I talked with them, and I talked with, as you said, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, who's running for president, and lots of people.
When we hear you speak, I'm like, man, he is so smart, and I am not. And 14, where did the love for politics and kind of wanting to know more and even interviewing people in that world start?
Yeah, I think I was just kind of, in general, just like, I liked the idea of, watching the news and then seeing people ask questions about issues that were actually impacting people. So I thought, why not do it myself? It kind of just started out with email exchanges back and forth with different people. And then eventually I thought, why not do this via Zoom to then record and publish to help people benefit from it in the same way that I was benefiting from it as well.
But you started at, what, 10?
11.
11. So you were that interested in politics. Is it talked about at home? Is it on television, or was it just you?
Yeah, I did definitely, not necessarily too much at home. I mean, my parents and some of our close family friends are definitely interested in what I do, but they don't necessarily have a huge substantial interest in it themselves. So I think it was just something that I kind of picked up, as I said, out of, watching the news, particularly over the pandemic, seeing again how people were, impacted by some of the news stories.
As we know, and Liza mentioned that you interviewed a U.S. presidential candidate. We want to know how you got to that in a second, but let's take a look at the clip here.
Joining me now is the former Arkansas governor and candidate for the Oval Office in 2024, Asa Hutchinson. Thanks so much for making the time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's great to be with you for a little bit today.
I think some of these politicians get a little nervous speaking to you because you're not going to hold anything back. You go right at them.
Right. Well, I think with that clip that you just ran with Asa Hutchinson, he's someone who is interesting because he doesn't necessarily have a huge chance at winning the presidency, but he's the only person who's come out and openly spoken out against Donald Trump in the primary, which is, fairly interesting that all of these other candidates get, usually in a presidential primary, you have, a lot of back and forth between all of the candidates, but right now it seems like they're not doing that because they know that they need to win over some of his voters, whereas he doesn't really care as much about that. He's more curious about putting forward his own policy ideas, which was interesting. So I was able to ask him about some of the ideas and what he would do if he was actually elected president or got the chance to serve in the Oval Office.
What's your take on Olivia Chow being elected mayor? I'm sure you were following it closely, running up to the election. Did you predict that?
Well, certainly. I mean, I was watching like a lot of people on the night of the election, and it was interesting because at first, I mean, Olivia Chow was always seen as the front runner in the campaign, but for a little while in the beginning of the race, Anna Bailau was quite heavily leading, and then obviously it changed so that Olivia Chow was in first place. But Anna Bailão in some cases was like 4th, 5th place in the polls, and then she surged. So I mean, I guess unity for the city of Toronto will be important. I guess one example of that, you saw the press conference that was held with Jennifer McKelvey, who supported Anna Bailão. So there's obviously a lot of issues there, but I guess the real test will be whether or not they can remain united when they start to talk about some of the policy issues and issues that are impacting the city of Toronto.
Our man here is starting grade 9 in the fall.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing how closely you're following all this and so insightfully as well. Do you think you want to end up going into journalism or perhaps into politics?
I said this on another interview I did recently. I think there's too much drama in politics. I like covering the drama
yeah.
rather than being a part
You
of it
don't want to be the
myself.
drama.
No, I do
Yeah,
not.
I hear
No,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
The podcast, where can people check it out online?
Yeah, it's on YouTube, The Wyatt Sharpe Show, with interviews with top newsmakers in North America.
It's amazing. You were on the show to start in January of 2021.
Right.
You sounded and looked very different. Your
Right,
voice
right.
is sounding a little stronger, you know what I'm saying? We love it, but we love watching you grow up and seeing your success, continued
Thank you
success
so
to you. And
much.
thank you for coming into the studio this
Of
time.
course, happy
It's
to.
great. Wyatt
Thank
Sharpe, everybody. There you go. Thank you.